Okay, go ahead.
Again, you have to have the authority to appoint a power of attorney, which is what an attorney in fact is. You're giving power of attorney. Are you the trustees of that trust?
No.
Then what authority do you have to make decisions for them?
I guess I don't.
That's right. I won't name the judge, but 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call from this lady that says up in New York that said, "Hey, I got a former judge that reached out to me. He really wants to talk to you." Okay, give him my number. He did an affidavit. I will not go over the language of the affidavit, but trust me, he's working on some other things, and once he completes those things, he will share the documents with me. And we discussed that just the other day. He did an affidavit, sent it to the probate court. They sent him back a letter and said, "Thank you for your communication. Your guardianship file has been closed." Now, why is it a guardianship file? Because the infant was the decedent and it was placed in probate. I've, I've got a video on my Rumble channel where the state of North Carolina admits this, but what is nobody doing? They're stepping on the trustees' toes, trying to find some magical process instead of going through the probate court and fixing things.
Okay, so that's another topic then.
So he asked me, he said, "I got this letter." I said, "Yeah, but guess what? Now the guardianship file has been left abandoned, and if you don't finish the process, you're not going to be able to do nothing." Well, he said, "Well, what do I got to do next?" "Give them a receipt of their communication. And for their consideration," I said, "You're a former judge. You know how to write an order." He said, "Yeah, I know how to write an order." Ask them for their consideration. You have enclosed an order for them to sign if they agree to it to appoint you as conservator. And I showed him the definition of conservator, and he said, "Wait a minute. Why would I want to do that? Because doesn't that mean it's continually monitored by the court?" I said, "Yeah, and wouldn't you like to have a court in your back pocket?" He said, "Please explain." I said, what is the if you're the guardian, which is a little bit lower than a conservator or a conservator, what do you have the authority to do? You have the authority to contact the creditors and tell them to go to the debtor to receive payment. Now, if they don't do what they're supposed to do, you can drag their ass right into probate and make them. He said, "I didn't think about that." I said, "Not only that, what does it say about a conservator? A conservator has the same investment powers as the trustees, but they're not the trustee. So when you go fill out a mortgage and you issue that private collateral security called a promissory note, what are you? An undisclosed third-party investor? Well, if you're the conservator, that investment gets recognized as the same authority as a trustee without the liability of the trustee." See, people have got to grasp this whole thing that and stop saying it's my name all the time. It's not your name. They're not after you. You're already free. You just haven't come to the realization you're already free. People talk about, "I got to change my status." No, you don't. I did a FOIA request last year. Queen, you know that. Asked for any proof that I was a U.S. citizen. They come back, they checked both their databases and said, we have no records.
Right. And I have a question for you regarding that.
Mm-hmm.
Being that you initially became a secured party creditor, wouldn't that have an impact on that FOIA request?
No.
Okay. I questioned that over and over and over in my mind. I was like, wait a minute.
No, you're making a presumption you're a U.S. citizen because why? You've been running around using the name of the trust for all your business dealings thinking it's you, and it's not you. If you have a business and you call it Queen of My Dominion LLC and you go get an EIN number for that Queen of My Dominion LLC and you go out and you go to the bank to get a loan and you put the name of the business and the EIN, whose property is it? Is it yours or is it the business's?
Well,
It's
that's a
the
trick question.
business's. No, it's not.
But if, as an individual filling out and signing for that EIN, you still have to put your information on it. So you're
No,
still tied to that EIN.
you're not tied to it like you're thinking.
Okay.
You are the agent for the business. Go on to any Secretary of State's website. Look up any business that has LLC behind it. Let's say it's a small mom and pop and that John Doe down the street owns it. Do they put on the LLC paperwork that John Doe is owner? No. They put on the paperwork John Doe is the registered agent.
Correct. You're right.
Okay. So you are the registered agent for Queen of My Dominion LLC. Queen of My Dominion LLC is the principal corporation that owns the property. It's the same thing with the social because it is a statutory trust created by Congress. A trust can own property. A trust is a legal person. It can go out and buy things, but it needs an agent to do the work. The agent is operating gratuitously like they're the liable party, paying all the debts for the principal, going into court, going and doing this instead of saying, hey, principal, your person has a debt that needs to be settled. And since I don't work for free, you need to start paying me for my time. You want to know how to discharge debt? That's how you do it.
So if we create a trust, isn't
It's
it?
not it's
Well,
not the same as that.
okay, but hang on a second. Let me finish.
Okay.
I've heard others say that in order to actually control our trust that they created, the only way to do it is through a trust that we create.
I hear a lot of people say a lot of things.
I know.
Does that make it true?
No, it doesn't. But I'm bringing it to everyone's attention because I said earlier, and I'm going to say it again. There's so many people out there saying so many different things that no one, I feel, has 100% truth behind every single word that they're teaching, proclaiming, and telling. And we all have to use our own discernment. And I said earlier that we have to listen to all of it and put it together like a piece of a puzzle. So, I mean, this is also part of it with this trust issue, you know? And I totally hear what you're saying, and I agree with you, but I also agree on the other realms of certain other things. And this attorney, in fact, really resonated with me, and I really wanted to explore it further.
Well, when
because
you're living, well,
yeah,
Queen, when you're living on hopium, a lot of things will resonate with you.
that's not true, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, but the average person is living on hopium. Because why? They listen to gurus that don't really know. And because it sounds good doesn't mean it is good. I mean, even the Bible says Lucifer will come as an angel of light, but the whole time he's a liar and a thief.
Yeah.
Look how many people follow David Straight. And I've watched people numerous times do what? Go to jail doing his paperwork.
Oh yeah, we had someone come in this morning, and they have an issue after doing the paperwork, but then they gave the excuse that it wasn't recorded yet. Well,
Yeah, whatever.
yeah, exactly. But
Now, I want you to think about something, though. What is the one thing I do? I show you every single bit of it in the government's own words, not what Mr. Guru down the street says. And even though I do that, people still have a hard time believing it.
yeah, I hear you.
Even you have a hard time believing it when I've shown you this stuff.
No, I listen. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting back, you know, and learning whatever I can. But I'm a better listener than I am a reader. So I also have lack of time too. But don't use me as an example.
Oh, you have the same amount of time I do.
Yeah, I also don't sleep much either. So we do have a lot in common.
You no kidding.
So basically, the attorney in fact is never going to happen until we take claim on the name properly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And you don't want to be the power of attorney. See, every single office you can use has certain rules that apply. But you got to look at it from the standpoint, who is the owner of that trust? That means they have to agree with the appointment. And since it is in probate, you got to go through probate to get the appointment.
Okay, so here's a question. When, one of our relatives or siblings or offspring pass on, we always have to go through the probate to get the power to actually work on the behalf of the deceased. So why is it that we can't do the same thing for the living? I'm with you.
Because you are still thinking that that trust is you. It's not you.
No, I get that. That's what I'm saying
But
to you.
that's, but
I hear you.
if you want to do it as a living person, yes, you can. But it doesn't mean that you're going to get control of that.
Right.
How many people out there has done the secured party process that you know of that actually has access to those accounts? None.
Yeah. I hear
Everybody's
all.
chasing
Yeah.
this golden unicorn, and they're chasing it with the wrong things because they're not going to the right place to the right people and handling things the right way.
So have you personally, being
What
that
do you
you've
think
been
I'm
down?
working on? What do you
Okay.
think I'm
So
working on? I'm working on my letter to get ready to send and appoint my wise counsel because of the Power of Appointment Act. And it's going to 7 or 8 different agencies between the state and the federal, and one of those is probate court.
Okay. So Lance on the call is actually taking things further, and he's actually going to go to the Netherlands and file his documents as the living man. And
Oh,
to
yeah, but
go ahead.
that stuff, people, we already know you're living. Look, I got a guy that commented on one of my videos on YouTube, and he said, now, I hope he gets in touch with me. He says, I have a court case in Maryland for the name change style, because it's a style issue. Okay. Back to my Christian name and not the all capital name. And the judge stated on the record that he could not do that because the all capital name is not you. You are the upper lowercase name, and he spelled it out on the record. And the guy said, I have a certified copy of the transcript that I can show. I said, I'd like to see that. Can you find me on Telegram? And I put my link. So I'm waiting to see if he does it. So we got another judge that said it's not you. KW in his video, birth certificate and agency, the judge in that case plainly says it is a state agency and you are the agent. But for some reason, everybody wants to ignore this and go do some magical process instead of saying, wait a minute, they're sitting there admitting what it is and how to do it, and we're ignoring it.
Okay, so you always refer to as being an agent, and someone, Akitas, had posted the definition of an agent, and it says acting and consenting parties are liable to the same punishment.
No, they're not. Where he got his definition is flat wrong. Where did he get his definition from?
Yeah, Akitas, you want to let us know?
Yeah, you can find that in Black Six. That's one of the
I sure don't.
maxims under agent.
An agent can be liable if the agent doesn't do their job.
Hey, brother, I
But
hear what you're saying. I'm just showing you where it's written.
if
That's all.
but under the law of agency, is the agent liable to the principal? No. You know the
Depending on the
term.
consenting. It all depends on
No.
what's laid out in the contract. And because, let's say banking, for instance, you have these banking hedge funds who have these agents that work for them. And what happens is they're going out and making fun and making commission, but they end up becoming agreed to that as agent and holding liability and then left for the same punishment. So if it goes down because of RICO Act or whatever, that same agent is liable for that punishment.
Actually, no. If you go
Okay.
look at qualified immunity, why does an officer have qualified immunity? Because he's an agent of the state or the municipality. As long as he follows the rules, he has no liability for the principal. If he doesn't follow the rules, what does he lose? Qualified immunity. Because why? The agent didn't do their job. You heard the term notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. Why is that maxim? Why is that out there? Because the agent's duty under the law is to forward all notices, all demands, and all processes to who? The principal. When McDonald's got sued for hot coffee, what did they have to do to have service of process? Serve it on the agent. The agent's duty, hey, principal, you're getting sued. Here's your paperwork. But if the agent doesn't do that, guess who's liable then? See, Myron Rice, some people know who Myron Rice is. He used to do this all the time. If his bill was worth it, if it was a $20 bill, he went ahead and paid it because it cost him almost that much in postage to send it to the principal. But if it was a big bill for 18 straight months, he said, he laid out his letter, under this state code, the agents and the CEOs and the officers have indemnification, which means no liability. And under this code, my duty as the agent for the trust is to forward all notices, all demands, and all processes to the principal. And as the principal, you need to settle the debt for your person. And I said, are you telling me they paid your bill every month? He said, yep. And I said, and it was never late? Nope.
So that's something you're doing or something that somebody else is doing?
No, that's Myron Rice. He's the one that told me that almost a
Ah,
year
Myron
ago.
Rice.
And ST in my group knows who he is and can confirm it. And Eon on YouTube knows who he is. And Eon is the one that introduced me to Myron Rice. He showed me the codes he was using. See, when the agent is doing their job under the law, they hold no liability. That's why I've told people numerous times, and Alex has heard me say it. He can confirm this. I've told people hundreds of times, read the book, Gilbert's Law Summary on the Law of Agency, Partnerships, and LLC. And what does hardly nobody do?
Now, even with agents and having that they're led to the same punishment, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Now it says, right?
Where is your evidence that they're led to the same punishment? Because under the law, if the agent does their duty, they are not liable. Show me any government agent that works for the United States or the state that is punished for following the rules. You won't be able to. Show me any agent of a corporation that follows the rules and doesn't break the law that holds liability. You will not show me that where they were held liable for doing what was right. What you do see is when they don't do their job and they don't do what is right and they break the rules and don't follow the law, yes, they become liable because why? The agent didn't do their fiduciary duty. That's what you see. Let's see here. I've got a whole section here on the law of agency in American Jurisprudence 2D. Got in general, capacity of parties to appoint an agent, I can't hit expand all. I wish I could. Come on, daggone it. Let me get my pencil. I've got all these different things that tell you exactly how agency works. Construction, interpretation, duration and termination of agency, authority of agent, delegation of authority of agent, manner in exercising authority, ratification, rights, duties, and liabilities between principal and agent, rights, duties, liabilities between principal and third person, rights, duties, liabilities between agent and third person. They sit here and tell you everything. But what is nobody reading? How are you ever going to do things the right way if you're not reading what they say? This is why I say the things I say. I guess he didn't like what I was saying, so he left. See, everything I say, I can back it up with facts. See, Queen, when it comes to the power of attorney, you as a living woman, yeah, you have the right to appoint me as a power of attorney over your estate. But that estate is what you have right now that you see in your possession. But everybody's after that trust and they don't even know what it is and how it applies.
How will that
Go ahead, Alex.
judge? Yeah, how will that judge become a guardian now? How are the tables now churned to make it more beneficial for him?
I told him. I said you need to give them a receipt for their communication, because if you don't get it appointed, it's going to become abandoned and they're going to think, okay, he don't want it. We're just going to take over completely. You abandon your interest. So I said, here, write an order for their consideration, and if they sign it and appoint you as conservator, now as conservator, you have the authority to go in and do all these things. Tell Bank of America to contact the trustee to receive payment. Do investments under the same power as the trustee, but you're not the trustee, because the trustee under trust law is the liable party. See, the name of the game is avoid liability. But everybody wants, oh, I own this, I own that. Well, guess what comes with ownership? Liability. Why do you want to own that name? Let them have it. Just keep your reversionary interest, because reversionary interest, that which is left over, is a clean thing. The decedent is an unclean thing, because you're not supposed to be touching anything that is dead.
Question is, how much easier will it be for him if he ever has any legal issues to take care of those once he's no longer, the guardian? Basically, he's of age,
Well, it'd be very simple. He's got the proof. He's got the documentation to back it up. If you have a document from a court that says you are the conservator of that minor estate, can the bank tell you you're not? It's so simple when you're reading the right things. When you start understanding the principles. I guess Yoda didn't like what I said either. He left. Not a surprise there, because what I'm teaching would put him out of business. Eric, I saw you in here.
What did I miss?
I was talking about Cite Your Authority. I saw him pop in here.
Mr. Nickel.
Barely. You are just, it's like you're across the room from your computer. How you doing, Etheric?
I'm doing good, man. I've been reading that book, Commercial Law and Commercial and Payment.
Commercial paper and payment law? Yeah. You like
Yeah.
that, don't you?
Oh, yeah. There's so much clarity in that book.
I mean, that's the thing I don't get is I got these books in my group, in Fearless Floyd's group. Eric is the one that shared them. And I'm like, everybody wants to know how to do things, but they won't go read what they say. They tell you all of it, don't they?
Yeah, it breaks it down real simple, man.
You don't have to be this top-notch legal graduate from the Harvard Law School just to understand the basics on how to do it and be able to defend it in court. They don't expect you to be that. It's just, if you look at what they put out, they tell you how to do everything, and you'll learn how to defend it in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. It breaks down that holder and due course rule pretty great too, man. And the simplicity of it really helps you like see the bigger picture too, where it starts putting the little simple pieces together to the complexity that they try and confuse you in.
Let me see. Julie, did they shut down the FOIA? Let's see, no. Oh, that's the National Records Center.
Yes, that's where they send me because they denied me the request, and this NARA is the one that keeps the records for everything. So they're their liaison, and they said we have no records of any U.S. person born U.S. person. So they denied me the request and said no, we don't have anything. And then I said, why don't you send me what you have? And they said, no, we don't keep records of any born.
So you went to UC.
Yeah, I did it through
USCIS first.
Yeah.
No, USCIS, which is United States Citizenship and Immigration Office. They forwarded you to that organization.
They denied me, and then they said I had 90 days to request an appeal, and I appeal, and the appeal goes through the NARA, and NARA replied and said, there is nothing. If you still think that there is something that we should give you, contact us again, because you still have 90 days, but we do not keep records of any U.S. born. So this to me seems like a way for them to get out of saying, they can just say, we don't keep those records, so we don't know if you're a citizen. So for you to have that letter really doesn't do anything for anyone. Because their denial will be that they do not keep records for any U.S. born citizen.
Well, I mean, I think that probably doesn't exist, a U.S. born citizen, because you can't really be born into a corporation, right?
however you want to interpret it. But the whole point was that we would be able to say, hey, here's a letter of you saying you have no record of me
I get
being a citizen. So it really kind of backfires on everything in a way.
Yeah, I got a few people that's done that, or I know a few people that's done that and received some stuff back showing that they weren't a citizen.
I was the first one to my knowledge that did it, and I did it in April. And I guess because of me doing that and the word spread, everybody else has been doing it through the USCIS, and I guess they're saying, "Oh no, we got to shut this down and we got to deflect." Because why? People are making the presumption that they're a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
It's not you that's the U.S. citizen. You are a free man or woman. That trust is the U.S. citizen. Because why? Under the 14th Amendment, all corporations, all businesses, and all trusts are what? A legal person having equal protection of the law and are a federal citizen. We got to stop thinking that it's us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted, like you, something that I could show in case they came at me. So I thought it would be interesting to do that. But yes, they denied me on, and then on mine, because I am a naturalized citizen, they sent me all of my paperwork that my parents submitted when I became a citizen. So, or, a naturalized American.
Now, Julie,
That these was the ones that they denied me outright were my children because they are born here. So they said, no, we don't have records of them.
Yeah, they don't have records of them. Now, Julie, technically they don't have records of you. They have records of the fiction that they created because the fiction didn't create you. They gave you a social security number, right?
Yes.
That goes right back to what? What is it and what's your relationship to it? It can't be you because on the back it says this card is property of the Social Security Administration and must be returned if we ask for it. So if it can't...
I have a copy of something as well. I keep all of my records and I'm very thorough. And I just realized I have a copy of a paper that comes attached to a Social Security card for one of my children.
I've got that too.
Yeah,
I've got that too.
That card says the craziest stuff. Like I'm gonna look for it and then repost it so you can read it. But basically it says you're not supposed to even duplicate this. You're not supposed to give it to anyone. You're not supposed to share that number with anyone. There is no law that is, but everybody tusses that part of the Social Security card because they just rip out the little square thing and he says, please keep these for your records.
That's right.
It's insane. So I'm going to post it because I think it would be interesting for people to see it too.
Well, not only that, look how many people out there in the guru communities are saying, it's identity theft. You got to report that to the IRS. Well, guess what? On that tear-off section, no, you don't go to the IRS. You go to the Federal Trade Commission. But see, if that trust is their property, it's illegal to own people under the Northwest Ordinance. So what? So that means what? It can't be you. By operation of law, no matter which way you slice it, it is not you.
I heard this brother giving his testimony of a time he went into court, and I guess he had brought in an affidavit, and in the affidavit it mentioned something about being a man born on the land, and the judge had commented on that part. He was stating that he didn't know what he meant by saying that he was a man born on the land, because he said that we hope that everybody would pretty much agree to be born into a social compact, pretty much, or a social contract. which I believe that's what they are trying to make as the United States citizen person, or, that fiction around corporate entity.
Yeah, they're trying to get you to agree to that stuff because why? If you go in there and agree to it, then you're the liable party. This goes back to agency. If the agent operates gratuitously, yes, you can be liable. That's what the guy earlier wasn't getting. He didn't want to hear it. I just shared the one I got too. Look on the left of the one I shared. Improper use of this card or number by anyone is punishable by fine, imprisonment, or both. If you believe someone is using your social security card number fraudulently, notify the Federal Trade Commission. And it gives you the phone number or the address. And these people out there teaching, oh, you're to go to the IRS because it's identity theft. No, that's why they're not winning. They're doing things wrong. I had a guy one time say, well, I'm the holder in due course. I said, really? I said, let's look at it. Actually, no, you're not the holder in due course. It says you're the holder. Big difference. Going
Hey,
through the
Pastor,
probate
if
court to receive your appointments is the way to go. Yes, sir, Alex.
you were to send documentation beforehand to the court before you showed up and told them that you're the registered agent, what kind of laws, or what would the essence of the document say?
I can't tell you a template. All I can tell you is the principles. If you know the principles, you will develop your own writing style. I'm not a fan of templates. You know that. Why? Because the masses will copy word for word and bum rush the system, and the system knows when you start doing that, guess what? The chances are is you don't know what you're doing, and they'll ignore you. But I did give you the essence earlier. You have to know your position. What did Myron Rice do? He quoted the code in Michigan that talked about the indemnification of the agents and the officers. He quoted the code of what the agent's duty was, and he said, I'm acting in good faith, doing my duty according to blah, blah, blah. So your person has a debt that needs to be settled. That's not difficult. On my ticket, I did it by phone. I didn't even do it by paper. Can you prove in court what I'm saying? If you did go to trial, yeah, Popeye did it. Popeye had a marijuana charge. They called the name. He said, I'm here to handle the matter for that estate. Well, if you're not him, I'm going to issue a warrant for his arrest for failure to appear. He said, Your Honor, I said I was here to handle the matter for that estate. Well, what's your name? You can call me Peaceful Inhabitant. And the judge tried to force the issue. He said, Your Honor, are you trying to have me commit fraud upon the court? Because I'm led to believe that name is owned by the United States. And he hands his social to the bailiff, who hands it to the judge. And he says, Well, how do you think we should handle this? He said, Sir, I told you could call me Peaceful Inhabitant. And the judge said, Okay, Mr. Peaceful Inhabitant. And he turns around and says, where did that term Mr. come from? I didn't say that. Judge dismissed the case. He did everything according to the law and the principles, and he showed his evidence. Tells you on your personal checks you're the authorized signer or the authorized representative. Who are you signing for? One guy said, "Oh, I'm signing for myself." Oh, you need permission? No, you need permission if you're signing for a principal, the owner of the company. Yes, that's the book. No, that's actually no, that's on trust. I actually scroll up as bueno just a little bit above those two pictures. I tagged it right there. Gilbert's Law Summary on Agency, Partnerships, and LLCs.
I have another question.
What?
Basically, I bought a new car, and I equitably sent them a letter when they wanted me to pay taxes on that vehicle. For 2 months, I didn't hear nothing. Then I get a letter from the Treasury that says we will cancel your license and registration if you don't pay your taxes on this brand new vehicle. He showed the code in South Carolina, and I sent them more documentation and stuff, about the person and this and that. And finally, when they defaulted, the treasurer defaulted, didn't respond anything to any of my letters. I sent the default to the head lawyer where I live, of Spartanburg, and also I sent it to another place. Now I got a letter back that said we thank you for your request. Per the FOIA Act, we will get back to you. Am I supposed to write back to them and say this ain't no FOIA request? I'm trying to settle this matter with you guys, and this guy has 25 federal charges that he stacked up. How do we handle this?
You're being accusatory. Don't be accusatory. You're supposed to be at peace.
Just let the letter go, okay? Let them do their FOIA request.
See, one, who is the taxpayer?
The name on the Social Security card.
Well, actually, it's not the name on the social. The name is the name of the trust. And this is from 2012. This case is Henry Bolins. And me, I'm all about confirming citations. So when I heard this, I had to go look it up to make sure it says what it says. That case right there. Okay, search. Says right here. Says second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, starts at the end of the fourth line. It says, and that every taxpayer is a Cesta K trust. Are you a trust? No. That means the trust is the taxpayer. So who's the obligor? Trust is. This goes right back to what I'm saying, Alex. You're the agent. You are not notifying the principal that they have a debt that needs to be paid. And then you're turning around and being accusatory of saying they're violating federal law when technically you're the one not doing your fiduciary duty. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that, man. Excuse me. I'm getting over a sinus cold. Eric, are you there? I know you're listening. Well, it says you're talking, but we can't hear you.
It's interesting that you point out Gilbert's.
Hold it up and see it, please. Check. Check. One. Check. Yep. Sure.
Well, checks are acceptable. Money orders too. So you say it's interesting that I point out Gilbert's. Why do you say that?
Gilbert's law summaries on trust was what I was dealing with a while back.
Mm-hmm. You know why I'm a fan of Gilbert's? I'm a fan of Gilbert's because they're written by lawyers and law professors for people in law school. If they're not accurate, they're going to get called out.
Well, like the suit, a lot of these books they try to convey everything, but it's not always easy. Between Gilbert and Gibson, I like both of those because they're very clear, they're very concise, they get to the point, and then they give you the meat.
Yeah, but it's they don't have to give you everything. They need to give you. It's about getting enough information to where the student has enough knowledge to defend the principles. No one person knows all the law. Everybody knows bits and pieces.
You guys got me yet?
Yes, we got you.
Okay. Wow, that was a tough one. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I went and I read these books. And that's why I know the things I know. That's why I'm an authority, is because I've written stuff about these books. And when you become an author, you become an authority. And that's why you have to publish when you get your doctorate, is so that you become an authority on something. And so then you can testify. So it's really important to read books and comprehend the value of them. And all of them are great. I love Gilbert's just because it's so clean and decisive. It just really is. It's an easy read for me.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you guys discussing?
We started off talking about the power of attorney, or
Yes.
an attorney in fact. Because someone was saying about doing this, and then you go into court and express this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, here's the problem. The court's not after you. They're after that name, and that name is that trust. It has trustees, and under trust law, the trustees are the legal owner, and they're the obligated party. They're the obligor. The trustees have all the power to make decisions. Where did you get your authority to do that appointment for that trust if you're not a trustee?
Bingo. It's interesting about trust law and how countries are set up, how similar they are, and how everything has the exact same structure.
Well, check this out. So I went and indexed my computer with every county in the United States of America. And after doing that project, and the reason why I do that is because that way I can file, I can save everything perfectedly into the county. So as I learn stuff about whatever Broward County in Florida or, whatever county in Texas, I put it in my index of my computer. And that's another reason why I'm so quick on my feet, is because the way I use my resources, my computer is not just, a computer to me. It's a valuable resource with a perfected index that I wrote, that I saved, that I created all these folders with the state name, and under the state name folder, I put every county in. And so, as you learn to be more efficient, and you think that that's a pain in the butt, and it is, but it's nothing compared to stumbling for the rest of your life. It's nothing like stumbling around in your computer looking for something when you should have already had it indexed. And so I want you to think about that as you're working. I want you to realize that, the better you can use a tool, the faster you're going to be. And that's one of the reasons why I recommend Adobe PDF Viewer, or the whole Adobe suite, because it's the go-to tool every day that I use. Every single day I use it. And the nice thing about Adobe is I called them up and I was like, hey, with all these costs and I'm not able to afford Adobe $50 a month. And they came back and gave it to me for like $28 a month for the whole package. So just give you a hint, there are great tools out there. I yield.
See, now I just want to call you both and pick your brains.
That's funny.
I mean, dude, everybody has learned a lot. I've been studying about 15 years on all of this. I saw problems in the world. I wanted to solve it, and I started studying to become a lawyer. So I go past the bar without having to go to college. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they passed that statute, and I was like, oh man, well, I'm gonna have to change career paths. Maybe I'll be a judge. Go find judge books, study everything I can about judgments and stuff like that. I can't say
Well,
I made much sense of most of it.
that law that you have to have a bar card is unconstitutional. Violates Article 1, Section 10 of the Contract Clause. They cannot force you to contract because why? Slavery is illegal. You're not making the right arguments.
Right.
I'm looking at taking the bar this year too, but I'm
I
not going to take.
wanted to.
I'm not going to accept the card. I just want to pass the test to show competency. That way they can't tell me nothing.
Right. Well, here, I don't even know if in Texas they'll let you even take the test without having college credits.
They won't let you if you accept that as fact. I mean, can they
Yeah.
pass a law that interferes with the common right of the people? No. And the
Yeah.
practice of law is the common right of the people.
What's the best way to enforce the Constitution?
Know it.
Well, what if you know it and you try to inform them and they don't listen?
Because you really don't know it. If
No,
you
I'm
go
not
into court,
know
if
it.
you go into court and say you're in a court case and you try to file papers and they won't let you, Your Honor, am I to understand under the Sixth Amendment you're going to violate my right to due process? What's he going to say? If you go into court, if you're in a court and you got an attorney and that attorney is speaking for you and he says you can't speak, oh, Your Honor, am I to understand that the Honorable Judge so-and-so is going to violate my First Amendment right under freedom of speech? What's he going to say? Oh, Your Honor, you're ordering me to do something. Okay, Your Honor, I will gladly follow your order. But since the Northwest Ordinance forbids slavery and involuntary servitude, or otherwise called the Ordinance of 1787, and under the Constitution it says that you cannot seize property without just compensation, and everybody knows in law that property is my rights, my rights, interest, and sometimes titles, that I have a right to just compensation. So who do I send the bill to for my just compensation for following your order? See how easy that is?
Yes. But you can't do that unless you know it, like you said.
Yeah, people go out there and make presumptions where it says we the people of the United States, aka Queen Kirk does this. They think that's us. No, it's not. When Biden was on TV last year and he said we the people are the government, as much as I don't like Biden, he told the truth. Why did he tell the truth? Because go back to the foundation of the country. What are the states? The states are 50 sovereign countries. Each one has a foreign jurisdiction unto itself. North Carolina can't go snatch up somebody from South Carolina without just reasoning because of jurisdiction. What did they do? We elected representatives. Those representatives created a contract of limitations called the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, and contracted and created a trust called the United States of America. The parties to the contract are your representatives and the federal government. You are not a party to that contract. The contract you are a party to is we the people of the state of. The federal government is a foreign jurisdiction to the 50 states. That's why there is a book that I went and purchased on Amazon. Let's see here. Oh, where's it at? I purchased both books. And you can blame Eric for this. The books are titled The report of the Interdepartmental Committee for the Study of Jurisdiction over Federal Areas within the States, Part 1 and Part 2, the 1956 and 57 reports. My dad purchased 2 copies. I didn't purchase them. My dad did. I spoke wrong a minute ago. He purchased 2 copies, one for him and one for me. They're about $160. Hardback, really nice. They come out of India. This is why I agree with Boris on certain things on territorial jurisdiction. I mean, when it comes to you, the man or a woman, yeah, they need to prove territorial jurisdiction. They do not have to prove territorial jurisdiction over that trust. It's theirs. They created it. And I don't mean no offense when I say it, but we're running around like a bunch of 2-year-olds not wanting to share our toy. We're saying, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. And then when the government slaps us around, we get mad and call them corrupt when it's theirs. No matter what they do, they try to tell us and we don't listen. Trust me, preaching to the choir. I did this in court years ago, called the judge in that case I was involved in corrupt. Said the same things everybody else said. See, when the New Deal happened in 1933, we've never really asked the question, what is this New Deal? How does it work? Nobody really wants to go back to 1933 and come forward and figure out how they set it up. But they pass all these acts. The Banking Relief Act of 1933, the Security Exchange Act of 34, the Social Security Act of 35. They passed acts in 36, 37, 38. The Trust Indenture Act of 1939. Passed all these acts all the way up to 1945, where they finally got everything set like they wanted. But we're not reading it to see how it applies. And who does it apply to? No, we're listening to every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there who writes some book that promises you gold like they're the expert. Why would we listen to them instead of reading the government's own stuff and the attorney's own stuff? They designed it. They set it up. They tell each other exactly how it works. And we sit here and watch these people get away with not paying taxes, get away with no liability, but we never ask the question, why? We just call them corrupt. And the stuff I'm telling you, I can tell you now. Judges and attorneys know this stuff. The judge in that case I was fighting, I went and verified it. I wish I could find the website. I'd show you. The straw man naming for him was a debtor to a trust. I said, holy crap, this judge knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the thing. We're acting like we're infants because we refuse to follow the rules. We're playing checkers, they're playing chess, and we get mad when they beat up on us.
You know, it's funny. I was around. I'm Batman 57. I don't know if most people know who that is, but he was
I
a
know,
goofy old man.
I know about Batman.
Yeah,
Then
I
you probably know Popeye then.
bro, I know the whole gang. I used to be on Talk Shoe with them.
Popeye's my buddy. He's out in California.
Yep. There's a lot of people that have been around in a lot of these groups. It's been an interesting road meeting all these people and watching everyone go separate ways. It's funny. Batman's probably got the best idea, and it almost matches what you're saying with all of this, with exceptions, right? Simple exceptions.
Yeah, with exceptions, because he's all about the claim.
Yeah.
Who's claiming that? Who claims that? Who has first-hand knowledge?
Who cares about the claim? Your Honor, beneficiary needs a truck, and as you can see it in the bailiff's hand, there's a purchase agreement for a truck that the beneficiary needs, and I'm the only one here. Can you help a beneficiary out?
Yeah. Well, see, I take it one step further. That trust, based on the evidence we've dug up, you're not even the beneficiary. And my buddy Tim, who's in my group, actually called the Social Security Administration, had a conversation with him. Am I the beneficiary of this account? Oh, yes, you are. Can you send me that in writing? Oh, no, we can't. A couple weeks later, he's still talking to him, and they finally said, well, you're not the beneficiary yet. I said, well, if you're not the beneficiary yet, somebody else is, and that's why I lay out the evidence that the state's the beneficiary. You're not the grantor. You're not the trustees. You're not the beneficiary. The only other office is under agency. Now, under agency, most all the offices have to be appointed. Can you become a trustee? Probably. Can you become a conservator? Yes. Can you become a guardian? Yes. Can you become an attorney-in-fact? Yes. But you got to go through them to get the appointment. And they're not going to let you get appointed if you're not competent. If you're not competent to handle your affairs, they're never going to give you the appointment. Because why? If they give you the appointment and you don't know what you're doing, you're a detriment to the country and to the public. See, when we've been acting in infancy all these years, we were also a detriment to the country. Why? We're out there creating all this public debt and not doing our fiduciary duties so they can balance the books. No, we run around thinking we have to change our citizenship, but we have no evidence we are a U.S. citizen. See, we talk about the courts making presumptions. We're guilty of making the very same presumptions. Shoot, I don't know if you know Eric, who are you? He had a court back in 1970. Eric Williams is, I think, his name. He had a tax case in 1970. for criminally failing to file taxes. And in his testimony, he says that the U.S. attorney stood up and said that citizens of the United States have these obligations and listed and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And he stood up before the attorney was finished and said, I object. The judge said, why are you objecting? He hasn't said anything. And he said, well, he may be correct. The United States citizens have all these obligations that he's trying to list. He said, but he has nothing in his file to put me in that class. What did he do? He turned the tables back on the United States to prove that he is a U.S. citizen. And they can't. And the judge goes, well, where were you born? Well, Your Honor, I mean, that when I was born, that was a terrible ordeal. I mean, I could barely breathe. I couldn't write, couldn't talk. I mean, I don't know. I have no firsthand knowledge. Well, what does your mother say? Well, Your Honor, I have no firsthand knowledge who my mother is. I couldn't pick her out from a lineup of one. Because what is it? By law, it's all hearsay. Your mother has claimed to be your mother all these years under the law, and you've believed it. But do you have firsthand knowledge that you can remember coming out from between her legs? No, you can't. None of us can. And the judge says, well, what is on your birth certificate? Well, Your Honor, again, I mean, it was a terrible ordeal when I was born. I don't have any knowledge that any record was ever created, and I don't think the U.S. attorney can prove one was. And the judge said, I will take that under consideration. And then he said that was 45 years ago, and he's never been contacted since. How hard was that? Does that require all this fancy legal knowledge? No, it required the basic information. The Bible says thou shalt not lie. Guess what? The only thing you can tell the truth on is what you have firsthand knowledge of. Everything else is hearsay and can be a lie.
Also known as heresy.
Heresy, that's right. And you don't want to be a heretic, do you?
Share where judges go on the program and they discuss law. I remember back in the day you had share that to be able to go and listen to them people talk about the law.
Uh-huh. I don't know what show you're talking about, but okay.
Basically, it's a YouTube, and there's individuals that sit and they talk about the different principles and different things that people do and don't do. And you had mentioned how this is important because they are the ones that are discussing these things. And I have it somewhere in my notes.
Federal Judicial Center, and it was the Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9, Part 1. That's the one you're talking about. At least that's the one I think you're talking about.
Remember, in the video, there were three individuals talking law, maybe four.
In this one, I think it's 5 or 6. But in that video that I'm talking about, they're talking about Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9. That's Article 9 under the UCC. Because Article 9 is a controlling article. At the 43-minute mark, Ms. LaRouche is talking about the registered organization. And the guy 2 spots to her right pops off and says, yes, and some say the state issues the birth certificate. Oh, so birth certificate is what? A registered organization or a state agency. And you are the agent. But if you're going to operate gratuitously, they will let you take the liability. And in that video, they tell you so much information, so much of it. At the 8-minute mark, they sit there and talk about what they're doing in the courts with these bonds, and then they say something. Yeah, so that way we can take the property from the trustees, and they all giggle. Well, who are the trustees? The United States. It ain't you. They know what they're doing, but you're not paying attention and looking at what they're doing.
Is that the one where they also mention inventory lenders?
Maybe.
And then they snicker and sneer about who the inventory lenders are?
Go on, Luna. Go on. Come on. I'm going to sit there and tell you to go get some water all day. Come on. Sitting there looking at the floor like you're afraid to jump down there. I mean, they may be. I don't know. I mean, I haven't even watched the whole video myself. Because it's actually 2 parts, part 1 and part 2.
Someone post that video?
Yeah, I lost connection. I didn't hear the name of it.
It's called Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9, Part 1 and Part 2.
Awesome, thank you. Ali Khan has a bunch of classes speaking about Article 8 and 9 also. He's a professor.
Oh, come on.
So you guys brought up territory and jurisdiction, and I wanted JW to come on the call.
I had to close out.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I had to close out because when I tried to share the link, TikTok went stupid.
Yeah, that happened to me earlier today. It just like shut out like 2-3 times on me. But anyway, you brought up the jurisdiction, the territorial jurisdiction earlier, and then just recently. And I did invite JW to come on, and he is on. And I'm really curious. I looked at the map. I saw what the ceded lands were and all that stuff. And JW, I'd like you to get involved in that conversation here because I do find it interesting, and I do think people need to learn a little bit more about it. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I'm sorry.
Hey,
but
JW. Yeah, me and JW had this discussion just the other day, and I've said it again. When it comes to you, the man, yeah, they need approved jurisdiction. Over the trust, they don't. You need to know who you are in relation to that. But JW, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Got another call starting in a couple of minutes, but so I'd pop in and see what's going on.
How you doing, man?
I can't complain.
It don't do no good, does it?
Don't do no good. But yeah, if the man's standing on land that's not ceded, they can't come snatch you and try to make you surety for that trust from where you're standing.
Yeah. Me and Boris had a conversation the other day, and I told him, I said he was working on a case where even though it's been expressed that the trust, he's not the trust, he's the agent, all this other stuff, they're still coming after the man. I said, then you're absolutely right. Territorial jurisdiction does apply. I said, but if they accept the deal with the trust and what it is, territorial don't apply because that's their property anyway.
So render it.
Yeah, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, but retain your reversionary interest. Because reversion is that which is left over.
Yeah, I'm glad you're looking into that word too, because like you, I don't just let other people do my thinking for me, you know. And even if they've been talking about it for 20 years, I got to go double check everything.
Yeah, you're right. I tell people all the time, don't even take my word for it. That's the reason why I show the information. It's here. Go read it for yourself. Come to your own conclusion. I love those groups on here that you share information that's outside of what they're teaching, and what do? They kick you out, they ban you, they scold you, they do all this stuff. Oh, you want to control information? Fine. I don't need to be part of your cultic group.
Everybody's wrong once in a while. We got to double check each other. That's why I like coming on the calls, because it kind of helps keep you sharp, you know. Somebody will throw a question at you and you find out what you don't know. Or you say something that might not be right. You get corrected.
Well, don't the principle in the Bible say surround yourself with a wise counsel? Why? If you rely on your own understanding, you might be wrong. Bounce the stuff off the people you trust and see if they've got other information you don't have, because no one man knows all the law. We all know bits and pieces. And yeah, JW, I actually respect him, and I tell him things that I learn. And sometimes we don't agree. I don't care. I still respect him.
Just done a couple of little things here and there. Nothing major, though, you and I.
Nope. That's right.
Like, who is the grantor of the trust?
The mother's not the grantor because she is legally incompetent during that time.
Can she become the grantor?
Nope.
So probably, you know, if you started off at the hospital, if you want to go, you know, at the prenatal care, as long as they write special deposit and things like that, and protect their signatures, don't give blank endorsements on everything, cross out what they don't like on the contract, maybe so.
If
right from
you
the
do your contracts before birth yourself, yes, then you can. But in the majority of the people's cases, not 100% across the board, I got a video on Rumble that shows this. The mother gave assignment over the products of conception, the placenta and the infant, which is otherwise called the infant, to the hospital. This is a Tennessee contract. What is an assignment? No, it doesn't make her a grantor. She's assigning property, in other words, rights and interest, over to the hospital. It doesn't make her a grantor. The only person that was competent to declare the intent and use of the name, because the assignment was done before there was ever a name given. There was no name given. The assignment.
Yeah, there were other property. Yeah.
Okay.
This was information.
Yeah, this was done before there was a name picked, before anything. This was strictly over the property. That's it. Okay. And it says for care, right? So the assignment was given. You said here, right? So the mother then in turn abandons it. The only person that was competent to declare the intent and use of the name was the father. Is that principle in the Bible? Yes. The Bible says what? That the offspring is the seed of the father. Well, this is the ultimate absentee father problem, because none of the fathers, including me, because I got a 12-year-old, ever declared the intent and use of the name. If you don't declare it, they don't know it.
How can it be rescinded if so?
Well, first you got to prove there's a contract, and two, it is a lifetime contract that can only be withdrawn in writing.
I've got to watch that video. You recently put it in your Silicos Nomos chat, I think, right?
No, it's on my Rumble channel.
Rumble channel, okay.
It's the one that's got it's talking about a detailed analysis. We go over the whole language of the contract and say what's the purpose of the state to protect the children, right? Well, in the contract, the mother is already agreed that the mother is neglecting or abusing the child. Why? Because the mother's not eating right, not taking care of the infant, all of this stuff.
That's why now they try to get them in those prenatal care agreements and all that.
You sound like Tim.
This is Jonathan.
Yeah, I know. But that is the prenatal contract, because when you went to the hospital, I'm pregnant, they said, okay, come on, let's start taking care of you. Fill out these paperwork. Nobody read them. What was you agreeing to? They just said, sign here, and sign here. And you said, okay. And then when the birth event happened, it had nothing to do with the baby. Because why? It's illegal to own people. Had to do with the infant, the placenta, the umbilical cord.
Oh, I still think the infant is the information that the informant provided. And they call that information from the informant the infant.
Yeah, well, the infant was for the placenta, because if you read the Lost Infant Codes, I just showed this on Floyd's channel the other day, almost every state and every single federal territory is worded the same way as Kentucky's. Paragraph C talks about the name or institution with which the child or the infant was placed for care. Now, what does it say you're giving an assignment for? For care. Now, why would the mother be?
The definition of placenta is flat land.
Yeah, it could be.
Just a land title for that placenta.
See, I think back in the old days before they did this, what happened? You took the placenta home, and a lot of cultures would have a burial, and that's how you would claim your burial plot. That's why they've got laws in place now that you can't have a burial plot on your property, because the government mortgaged all the property, and you're just a property manager, but you're working for free. Oh, wow. For all y'all that want to know, Malika has now been convicted of a felony for practicing law without a license and extortion.
What?
Yeah, my wife just shared the article with me.
Oh, no.
Not convicted. She was accused.
Yeah, she's accused. That'll be a case worth following.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So, hey, in that movie Rain Man, you remember that one? Tom Cruise is buying and selling vehicles, transportation, worrying about getting credit and all of his loans. And he finds out he's got a twin that's in an institution that's got all the full inheritance from his father. And they name him Rain Man, or Raymond.
Yeah.
And it sounds so close to remainderman, you know, that term from estates and trust, remainder man. And he said, remember, he's like, Dad lets me drive the car. I'm a very good driver. Like, so what's on a driver's license is the name of the trust. I think Rain Man symbolizes, you know, the trust in the name of the placenta kind of a thing. You ever thought about that much?
Yeah. That's the way I
I
see
haven't
it. That's
watched.
why I say you go back to the reversionary interest, because the reversionary interest, that goes back to the necessary and proper clause. They're supposed to take care of your necessaries. Why? Because they mortgaged all the homes and all the property of the people of the nation. What is property? Property is rights and interest and sometimes titles. Not always titles, but it's always rights and interest. Well, what's the role of government? To secure and protect your rights and interest? That's what they were trying to do, but you're never claiming them and never properly expressing them, so they can't secure and protect them. You're going in as the debtor saying, that's my name, that's this, that's that, instead of saying, hey, it's your obligation. I'm just this. Oh, by the way, did I show that to you? The United States for the use and benefit of. Did I show that to you, Jesse?
You talking to me?
No, not Jesse. I meant JW.
Check this out. I missed the question because I was reading this, so let me just finish reading it out on the pre-dictionary. It says, remain the man is, in property law, the person entitled to receive a particular estate on its determination, compared to reversioner, like we knew it would. Remainderment and reversion might be the same thing, right?
Yep.
See, remainder, a future interest held by one person in the real property of another that will take effect upon the expiration of the other property's interests created at the same time as the future interest. Remainder. Yep, it's the same as reversion.
Well, Queen, it'll be worth watching. I'm not a fan of Malika on how she used to act on Facebook. If she's changed, that would be good. I know she's actually started listening to other people instead of thinking she has all the answers, so I will give her credit there. Now, the question I asked you, Dave, Alphonse, oh my God, that's another joke. You share anything about the birth certificate, he don't want to hear it, even though I can prove every bit of it. What a question I asked you is, did I show you that document on the United States for the use and benefit of other persons?
It's not ringing a bell. It's been a while ago.
I actually was talked to Wesley Keith Mullins earlier today, and I shared it with him. I said, because what do we always talk about? You are supposed to express it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we not expressing it right?
Or at all.
Here you go. He was reading through this. This is under the Miller Act. He said, this is freaking awesome. And I can tell you, there are a bunch of court cases where someone come into the court case as the plaintiff, or they were in the case as a defendant, where it says, and I'll give you an example, the United States for the use and benefit of Robertson Building Supply. That is one of the cases. So Robertson Building Supply is coming in as the United States because why? Apply it to the social. It was created for what? The use and benefit of who? John Henry of the House of Doe.
Do you put it in the chat again in this room?
I put the document in the chat. It's the 1551 application of the real party and interest.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Alex, what happened? You get kicked out or something? No, Daryl.
Listen, my friend.
Answer the question. Daryl needs to answer the question. I saw you answer 9. I was like, wait a minute, you're in here. Why are you saying 9?
Well, the other call just started. These are some people that have been creating their own money orders with a high level of success so far.
Go in the files section, Jessica, and try to open it up there. Maybe you can do it that way. Some people do have a problem when you share it in the chat, they can't open it. And it may be because your phone hasn't fully downloaded it. I don't know. But you usually have to do a workaround to open it. Now, let's go here. I've got my Westlaw account. Let's see. Okay, come on, quit dragging your feet. There we go. Let's see. Paste. And I'll show you a screenshot. Actually, I think I'll do something else. Let me see. I need the exact term, not 676 cases where that term comes up. Let's see. See if I can get it narrowed down. Let's do federal. That knocks it down to 590. Party name. Cancel. Cancel. I was hoping, let me see, doesn't give me the done. Let's see if that'll do it. But knocked it down to 310. And I very seriously doubt every single one of these are going to be titled. It's just going to be mentioned in the case in a lot of them. But let's do this. Email. I don't want PDFs. I want documents. I don't want document list. Send. Now, let's go to my email. Now, Matthew, you there? See. No, Matthew's not there. Yeah, Matthew, PMA. Oh, you're losing signal. Okay. The reason I asked for you is because Popeye went in there and said what? That name is owned by the United States. We need to quit fighting against that and start expressing things. And maybe it's because we're not expressing things properly is the problem. So check this out. Look at this. First case, United States for the use and benefit of Pacific Western Incorporated versus Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. Floral Construction Company versus United States for the use and benefit of Grand Junction Steel Fabrication. Wait a minute. There's a use and benefit for this company to use the United States? Go figure. United States for the use and benefit of 3L Leasing LLC. US X-Rail Pacific. Now that one's probably mentions the term. But look at all these that says U.S. for the use and benefit of McGrath, United States for the use and benefit of these companies. Something worth researching.
So that's probably going to apply to all companies that are registered, incorporated.
Why would it only apply to that? What was the purpose of the Social Security Trust?
I'm saying that's incorporated also.
That's right. Doesn't well, it's not incorporated. I think it's statutory, and I think it's unincorporated. It's part of the main trust, which is the United States, but in 1933 in the Congressional Record, it said they mortgaged all the homes and all the property of the people of the nation. Well, they have to give equal consideration, right?
Correct.
So they had to set something up for your use and benefit, right?
So possibly when people are subrogating cases using that Title 50, 4305B2 or what is it, 40 Stat 411 and all that, could that be?
Well, you're not. It could be
for the use and benefit of situation.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Because
who's the obligor?
Social Security trustees.
Well, actually, let's see here. Actually, cancel. Let's go to the files section. Search. March.
Or would it technically be Office of President after Proclamation 2039 as ultimate obligor?
Well, Proclamation 2039 is part of it. But look at here. This is the New Deal. Right here. Under the new law, the money is issued to the banks in return for what? Government obligations. Whose obligations is it?
United States.
Why is it their obligations? They had to give equal consideration.
Right.
Because it will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people in the nation. They can't just take your property without giving equal consideration.
Exactly. That's why they had to hold it in trust.
Yes.
Because there was no equal exchange. There was something else I was going to say, but I forgot.
Happens to the best of us.
It'll come to me.
they actually deny you when you do it right that it's the United States property, it's the United States for your use and benefit? No. Why? The country's in Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Right.
What
So
is one of the things? What is one of the things that happens under Chapter 11?
So restructuring,
reorganization, right?
organization. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. United. Check this out. This is the statutes at large, all the way back to 1951. If you want the rest of them to 1789, you have to go to loc.gov. What does it say? Reorganization plans. What did they do? Reconstruction Finance Corporations. Oh, wait a minute. When did we get Reconstruction? Civil War. 1952. Reorganization Plan. Bureau of Internal Revenue. Government of the District of Columbia. 1953. Reorganization. Department of Health, Education and Welfare. Department of Agriculture. Office of Defense Mobilization. Department of Justice. Export-Import Bank. Department of Defense, Foreign Operation, United States Information Agency, Council of Economic Advisors, payments to air carriers. They're doing reorganizations almost every year, not quite every year. Because why? They're in Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Yeah, I think that also coincides with that Mutual Security Act of 1952 as well.
It might. Never heard of it. I'd have to research it.
Well, that's what I was researching. That's what the UPU Treaty of Berne evolved into. It went through a couple different transformations, and then shortly thereafter, they redid the state constitutions, or at least I know Ohio did.
Yeah. I think I'll save that one. So, anybody got any questions on all this stuff I actually shared?
I have a question, but it's not about what you shared. It's more so about what you spoke about on Fearless Floyd the other night or the other day. You were on there all day. But you mentioned the authentication of the documents, and you told me to check back with you in 2 days.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. Further information.
Thank you for reaching out on here, because I'm sorry. I will send people messages privately, and if sometimes, because I'm so busy, I drive a truck too, I forget. I apologize.
I know. No, you said 2 days, so it's okay. I just was reminded.
So what's on your mind?
You were mentioning about when authenticating documents to put on the record, you were saying that if you don't do that, then they will be seen as hearsay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was asking what type of documents should we authenticate? Like, should we authenticate laws that we're citing in affidavits or police reports as evidence? Because remember, like a
Possibly.
police report,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, because a
Possibly,
police
because
report,
why?
it could be
If,
considered secondhand information.
well, you personally don't have firsthand knowledge, right? You, when you express when you bring the document in, you need to be able to know if it's self-authenticating or does it need to be authenticating? You see what I'm saying? So, um, the purpose of authentication is if it needs to be, you're getting the state to accept it as if it is true, as if it is the record. So if you have a legal case that you're involved in and you're going to bring all your citations of authority into the case, sometimes the judges will ignore them. You see videos online where the judges ignore them when they cite some court case. Well, why? Because it's hearsay. You haven't produced your evidence.
Right. Okay.
Isn't there something under the Hague Convention where it was supposed to have abolished the necessity for?
Well, you're talking about the birth certificate. I'm talking
No, I'm
about
talking
just
about
documents in
authenticating.
general.
That's what I'm trying to talk about. I thought that
Oh, okay.
abolishment. I thought that abolishment was supposed to apply to many things. As
No,
far as
no, the difference in the Hague Convention is you got to look at what is the purpose of it. The Hague Convention is primarily for travel. Okay. We're talking about in court under the rules of evidence. See, there's a difference. And if it wasn't for David Roach, I wouldn't even known that, because in Indiana, under their rules for authentication, it gives the best explanation, the clearest. And it's about rules of evidence when it comes to what you're producing in court. The Hague Convention doesn't necessarily apply to courts. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes.
Well,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Also, Jonathan, does that?
all I heard was
Jonathan?
John. Is that
I said, does that kind of answer your question?
regarding the abolishment?
No, the authentication.
Oh, I was specific. I think it was something about apostille, not authentication. Is what I'm recalling.
Yeah, apostille and authentication under the Hague is specifically for traveling between Hague and non-Hague countries. That doesn't have anything to do with the rules of evidence. That's the difference.
Okay, I remember somebody else speaking on this years ago, talking about it's kind of a safe play that anything that one feels that needs to be notarized, it's a safe play to go ahead and get it authenticated if you're going to try to use it in court.
Absolutely.
And then even like notices or something that you didn't necessarily have notarized when you created it, like maybe did it in front of witnesses, it's possible to create an affidavit and get it acknowledged and then get that authenticated to enter into a case.
Yeah.
Hey there, it's Ashley. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to say on the apostille, I had to get my birth certificate with an apostille in order to get married in Italy. Like the Italian government required that.
Yes.
So that's one reason, you know, I was actually doing the traveling and conducting business, I guess. So I had to have that.
Yeah, the apostille, they wanted that, but you don't need it for travel. That's the difference.
Correct. Yeah, they wanted that to, I guess it was their way of authenticating my birth certificate or accepting it for me claiming I was who I claimed.
Yes.
And I a lot of paperwork written in Italian, you know, just with witnesses of people that knew me that said that would attest that I was never married before. I guess because in Italy they probably have a marriage registry, and we don't here. You know, like a national registry. So I had to prove to the Italian, I guess it was the mayor, that that we weren't married before. So it was a lot of stuff going back and forth, but that's how we had to use the apostille on a birth record.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody else has traveled and used it before to conduct business, or, you know, I've never heard of it being used any other way. That's all.
I had apostille on my marriage certificate, and it was done in order for me to immigrate to the United States because I was coming as a wife. So they needed to see the document certified by the higher level, the state in that country, in order for me to come to the United States to make sure that the marriage is legal and not fake papers. So I do have it.
Yeah. But no, authentication is similar to apostille, but it's not the same. And unless you use a non-Hague country, they won't authenticate your birth certificate. But authentication is really just, when I read the case State v. Gray, it really makes it hit close to home, as in it shows you exactly why you do the authentication, even though it doesn't mention it that way. It in State v. Gray, it said that the birth certificate or certificate of live birth is double hearsay. It is only prima facie evidence that a record exists, but it's not the record. And it's the assertion of the deputy registrar of what's in the record. And why does that make it double hearsay? Because the deputy registrar does not have firsthand knowledge.
Would a DNA certificate or a DNA result or test that's like court certified, would that be higher than a birth certificate, especially when there's a birth certificate on there?
anything you produce outside of the birth certificate will probably be higher, because why? That
That's
birth
firsthand
certificate,
knowledge.
it's not you. The birth certificate has nothing to do with you. It's not even you.
Right, right. I'm just trying to see how to get maybe a higher standing over my niece Sophia with the DNA versus a birth certificate that has my sister's name and she's the one that passed away, and her second husband who adopted Sophia. Yeah. And now I have, and so that's how I'm just trying to stack that deck.
Well, that can be used as evidence to show the genetic heritage, because why? God makes the heir, not man. That's a maxim of law.
Okay. And I don't know if you recall about the trustees wanting me to title a car claiming I'm her conservator.
Oh, I remember our conversation, yeah.
Okay, so I went to the DMV just to, I've had to show, I'm going to call it show papers, guardianship papers, so much over the years that if we're doing something, we practically don't leave the house. So unless anybody's been through that, they really don't understand that part of, having papers for a child. So I typed up a letter just saying who I was, where I was going, why I was attempting to do, to do this, and here are my papers, and basically I anticipate the DMV not, basically saying no to register a car and a title that I wasn't given by a court.
Yeah.
They didn't give, they wouldn't do it. They signed my document stating their name at the counter, and they notarized it saying that they would not do that because my documents that I presented do not show that I have the title to be her conservator. And so I haven't presented that yet to the court, but I did do a status update I have to do a status update every year to the probate court as the guardian. And one of the questions says, is there anything that the courts can do? And I said, yes, please help us. I did the Lord's Prayer. I must have done it all wrong. I even gave evidence of the emails from the lawyer saying anybody can claim title of conservator. Put that in there. And the judge came back. He goes, yeah, I don't see anything to require a hearing. I'm like,
so did they actually get you appointed as conservator?
No, I've never been. No, the adopted father, he purposely marked that off, the guardianship paperwork. He did not want me to be appointed conservator because then I would try to get him kicked off as her trustee. He only wants to manage the money, to deny the money.
Yeah.
So right now they're not sending the money that they said they would, because I haven't retitled the car in a capacity that I haven't been granted by the courts. And I seem to be the only one that knows this.
Yeah, I think it's more than just control. I think he also wants to.
He wants to punish me.
Embezzle the money? That's freaking a lot of money.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah,
he won't even let you review the books.
No, and I provided the commissioner. It's a new position. I provided the commissioner a copy of the last accounting that we had, and it was like 1.2 or 3 million. And I said, Judge, I said they will not provide the accounting this is the last statement they've shown us, and now they have checkbook writing privileges. And he's like, I don't see any reason to call for a hearing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to go rewrite it 3 times before taking another step? Because I looked on all of his other probate cases, which I've never been granted this, but on his other probate cases, whenever there was a guardian conservator, ship relate thing, anytime that of the 8 or 9 probate cases he has, all of the other ones, when they submit their status update to the courts, within 30 days, they all have a hearing to go over the status. And the only thing I can think of is that I must be the only one that does not have that doesn't have both titles. I'm probably the only one that has it's just a guardianship, not a guardian/conservatorship.
Yeah.
But on the thing, I'm like, please help us, and I'm giving him, documents. I'm not accusing. I'm providing it, and I asked the clerk when she called. I said, did he read the documents? She goes, oh, he read all of it. I said, oh, okay. Because I don't know. It's like I'm asking for help. I'm asking for an appointment of something. Bring us all in. Let us address the court. They're not showing us the books, showing them the evidence where the attorney, is repeatedly telling me I need to title the car this way, and that basically the attorney converted the money for the purchase of the car into it's like they're trying to make me a surety for the trust. So they're saying that it's I shouldn't be, but it is shocking when it's like my husband and I are like the only ones that are doing what we say we're going to do, doing the right thing, standing up for what's right, and not bowing and doing something wrong for the money, which I think that's what they want us to do. Almost the entrapment of claiming that I'm her conservator when they know that, or they should know, the judge and the lawyer should know that that's a title that I just can't claim it without have it being done through the courts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I don't know. Should I ask him 3 times for an appointment?
Well, that is how you do it if you're going to do it under the administrative process.
Okay.
One of the problems I see with people using the Lord's Prayer or anything, of that nature is that it's just like if you start talking legal mumbo jumbo, they're going to hold you as if you're an attorney. When you start speaking your knowledge about the scriptures, they're going to hold you to one tongue. What I mean by that is most people speak out of both sides of their mouths. Yeah. And so you can't just use the Lord's Prayer, out of context. Otherwise, you're just speaking out both sides of your mouth. And it's apparent that you still have a minor disability.
Yeah.
I yield.
And another term would be double-mindedness.
And
because we do tend to say one thing and then act another way. That's why we have to be very careful when it comes to the words we use.
Oh, I guess
Go
I
ahead,
have
ma'am.
something. I want to say something without being.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Don't take offense to what he said. He's not picking on you. Okay.
Yeah, not at all. It's that you really have to check yourself. One of the things I have my students do is mail it to yourself, because by the time it gets back to you, you'll have time to have thought about it, and then read it as if you were them.
Oh, I agree, and I pretty much started out. I have made many mistakes.
All of us do. Yeah, all of us do. But once you do that, like physically do that, you'll have a completely different experience. And the reason why is because, the Holy Spirit knows your heart. God knows your heart. And when you do that and you do something really kind like that, instead of, trying to put chattel papers and force chattel papers onto people, when you take the time to send it to yourself and then read it as if you received it from you, but you're being the other person you sent it to, that your eyes change. The chemistry in your body changes. Everything changes. You're a new person that day, and you're able to see your shortcomings. You're able to see these little small details that you didn't pick up on when you were writing it. And the reason why is because writing, it's a very emotional process. And that's the last thing you need in your writing is emotions. Yet you're steeped with emotions in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help you a little bit?
It does.
And I actually said the other day, and ladies that are listening, I mean no offense at all, I feel for y'all. And why? Because God made y'all as emotional creatures. And it's not saying us men don't have emotions, but it's not, we are warriors. We have that ability to set our emotions aside and go to war. And that's why I say men drop the ball, because why? The women are having to now fight battles God never intended them to fight. And it's harder for you women to set aside your emotions, because that's asking a woman to not be a woman. And
that's true.
I feel for what y'all have to go through, because why? To ask a woman to set aside her emotions is difficult.
I guess I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
To not feel like I'm being double-tongued.
Why do you feel that way? Because I haven't seen you being that way at all.
It's not that I really feel like I am, but I guess I don't know the order to present with the things that are happening. They're like holding me to things that lawfully I can't do.
That's why I told you need to build your paperwork and take them to court.
To a different court or to probate court?
To the same court. And you get your documents in order showing your evidence that they're trying to force you to break the law.
So I have to point it out.
You have to point it out to the judge, because the court is who is monitoring the guardianship, right? If you don't lay out the evidence to the judge on how everything's playing out, does the judge know, and can the judge correct it?
Well, and I guess I presented the evidence, and I must not be laying it out. And I guess where I'm saying, and Eric, I appreciate what you're saying to me, both of you. Should I have just done the Lord's Prayer and the status update and not included? Because the information isn't pretty.
Well, send it to me right now, the instrument you sent, and I'll just walk you through it. Because if you don't have other eyes to see your instruments, it's very difficult. So send it to me, and I'll look at it right now.
Eric, I wish I could. I can't.
All
right.
Yeah.
I'm driving.
Yeah.
And
that's
I won't
fine.
have it. But I will get it to you.
Yeah. Because I can go through an instrument so fast and tell you the fallacies and the strengths. Because what I'm looking for students to do is to present, so I can tell them their strengths and their weaknesses, so that they have a chance to oops on paper before it counts, and also it has to have cadence. There's a lot of different elements that go into a perfected instrument, and when I say elements, I'm talking using principles to develop elements. And so that's why
I'm sure I was just raw emotion, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I know, because when you're accused of something, or you've been accused of something you didn't do, or you're under the gun to perform, it's really, really stressful, and it's full of emotion. And I testify to you because I know I've been there, and I have not only sympathy, but I have empathy. And so that's why I'm serious about it, because I've been in those shoes, and I know my shortcomings, and I've corrected what I see, and I'm still correcting what I don't see. Okay?
Now,
I appreciate that, both of you.
Go ahead and add her, as in send her a private message, so when she's not driving, she can find it and she knows how to get in touch with you, Eric.
I've got us. I think I have them as a contact.
Okay.
But and so I thought, okay, if I presented all the evidence without being accusatory, and I tried not to be accusatory, just wanted to show if he would read it.
Can I ask a question, Ashley?
Of course.
Real simple, because of what Fantastic Victory Faye said to me before I went to court February 2nd, just Thursday. When you go through there, you have to have a motion. You have a notice, which is basically memorandums, affidavits, the elements which make up your motion, and then you have to write an order to the judge. Did you do all three of those?
No, I didn't. No, because this is just part of the guardianship stuff. So it wasn't like I'm trying to come at anybody. It was just, it's a guardianship status report saying, does the minor still, want to live with you? What is your relationship? So it's just asking these questions. And one of the last questions was, is there anything we can do to help you, or the minor? Well, so yeah, I would love I need to just talk to you and ask you some, I need to speak to them, or bring us all in so we can all speak. So I'm sure I just did everything wrong. It was sincerely wrong, but probably all wrong. So no, I didn't do a motion. They called me and said that the judge read the Lord's Prayer document that I sent in, and that I need to, I guess, make a motion for a hearing.
When you make any motion, though, it must be followed with the notice, which is affidavits, memorandums, and/or memorandums. What that is once you note a motion, then you have to make an order to the judge. What you're looking at is you're actually very politely in a few sentences on any motion, and it could be multiple. I just went through this, and I believe it or not, I'm not doing too bad on the things I talked about just the other day. I don't want to jump in and talk about that, but it was because of hitting a particular vein when you go into those courts, because the judge could be your friend or your worst enemy. And usually I had really good success February 2nd. I was ready to go, and thank you, Eric, with Cite Your Authority and Thinking Roughneck, and a man named Daniel who gave me some good information about territorial jurisdiction and, the 4 types of jurisdiction. And when I was able to write the motions and tap them straight into the vein of the original motions, I realized for a year, and you know me well enough right now, Ashley, what I've tried to get these case with the girlfriend taken care of. When you have an entire law firm coming in on February 2nd and they think they got me where they want me, judge looks right at me and says, why did you file? And I'm not even allowed to talk because I'm not the attorney and I don't have guardianship and I haven't been to probate court. And yet the attorney was not prepared. I took my paperwork in there and let it speak for itself. The 5 motions with the notices, with 5 orders, with that demanding that the judge, and I'm like, let's go to court, right? I'm ready to go right now on February 2nd. And I'm not even allowed to talk. And my girlfriend doesn't even know what to say. But the paperwork, it's everything. What I did was I got it to the judge, and the judge looked over at that lawyer, which is one of the of the firm, Love, Beal and Nixon. He's not one of those, but he's one of the 12 people who his name is on the door. When he shows up and he starts reading the nonsensical stuff that I first sent on these motions, because I just sent out a bunch of motions, 3 of them actually, and forgot about the follow-up, which means the notice, which, as Eric for Cite Your Authority said, you have to show elements because there has to be a cause of action, right? And what is that cause of action? And what makes up a cause of action? Well, law and facts. Facts are more important to me than the law, but the law is still kind of relevant, isn't it? So when I went in there ready to go and they wouldn't let me talk, girlfriend didn't know what she was doing. And then the judge says, what else are you doing? I was smart enough to at least put the names of the motions on a folder. So when she read them off, the judge looked at her and said, why did you file this the day before? She goes, I didn't. She goes, who did? She pointed at me sitting in the common law area. I'm the only one there. Judge starts talking to me and asking why I did this. Well, before I could tell him the insufficient stuff and the forging of documents and their total complete respect for due process, meaning the courts themselves, which one of them are in default. The lawyer on the other end, I think his name was Burton, objected. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck are you objecting to? The judge is talking to me from across the bar when she told me we couldn't even talk. But as soon as she asked the girlfriend, who gave them to them? Well, guess who drove from Tulsa to Oklahoma City and served those lawyers themselves and videotaped it? Me. And the judge turned and looked at me behind where I'm at, talking to me now, having a conversation with me, the guy that can't come and talk. And she said, why did you wait to the last minute to send them? Started to say, well, I never even got notice from you guys of any problem. So I basically, and the judge had a copy of all 5. And this lawyer tried to say, and the judge says, are you ready for court today or not? And he was not. And all of a sudden, they gave me another month, and she says, are you going to file any more motions? I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to, as many as 10 or 20 more. And she said, what will they be? I said, I haven't decided, Your Honor, but since you asked, and that gentleman over there doesn't want me to talk, I'll just put it this way. It meant a lot to me that, like these people that are helping you right now, Eric, I know, and Pastor, I've listened to him quite a bit too. It is about the paperwork, though, and your words are like smoke. And if there are nobody recording anything going on in there, it has to be on that paper. Because right now, sitting in front of a judge ready to be ordered on now, and I wrote the orders as well. So he can yay or nay it, do whatever he wants with it, because then I've got them too. I'm not afraid to take them to another level and send the higher courts after these people. Because most of these lower end courts, we're just spinning our wheels playing with them. The fact that the territorial whole thing, when you go back to organic law in the first 13 colonies, I'll ask you this, are you working under the English Common or are you working under the UCC? I thought we were functioning under the Constitution still. Well, it's an overlay. We know that. So I just asked that because it was something that Fantastic Victory said and something Daniel Joseph shared with me that John shared with him. And it had a lot to do with organic laws. It was a 3-page memorandum of law. When you read it, it explains very carefully. And I was blessed enough the gentleman told me to use the document as I so choose, but I also said I would not corporatize any said document. So basically, it was the argument coming from the constitutional perspective of territorial subject matter and personal jurisdiction. I still think they can't. It's hard to rule on anything if they can't prove jurisdiction. And I'll leave it on that, guys. Thank you. Ashley, I haven't heard from you, but give me a call when you have more time. I've got other good things going on as well. Be good to hear from you, though.
Thanks,
Cree. I have a question before you go.
Yes.
I wrote a document that challenges subject matter, personal, and territorial jurisdiction, but I did it all in one document, and I'm just wondering, should I separate it and do different motions with different orders? And
yes, put make them all one page. There's a really simple. I can send you a copy. Thank you, Pastor. But yes, what you also want to do is make each motion separate. So if you
look,
motions,
go to the
each
Fifth
one
Amendment.
have a note. Yeah, you have to have a notice, which basically the notice is the elements, which basically means and I don't use the word affidavit, but I could throw that in there. I'll use memorandum, affirmation, only so they cannot come back and rebut them, because I didn't call it an affidavit. And so I don't mind if they want to rebuke them. Since insufficient process of a waiver, I've never sent a waiver saying they could just willy-nilly send me something and send it regular mail. Now, guys, I caught these people forging a document and sending it back through regular snail mail, and the dates were all wrong, and they changed something on this document. I went and got the certified one from the clerk. I'm about to go to town on the lawyer.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Pastor?
Think of the Fifth Amendment. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, right?
Right.
Now, people tend to think that's in their voice, what they speak. No, it's also what you write. If you say you have all 3 arguments on one document and say the judge agrees with you on 2 of the points, but not the one, he'll deny it because of the one.
That's right. The whole thing. That's why you have to have individual motions, and with each motion has to have a separate notice, affirmation, and they're specifically detailed, and those generally have to be notarized.
Yeah,
and then the last one is the order.
I'd like to add to that. One of the most important things, guys, is to get your header correct. And the header needs to be, first of all, in the Styles Manual, it says that it needs to be different than the body text. It also says that it needs to be in all caps. It also says, it needs to be bold. It can be underlined, but is not necessary. And what I mean by that, there are some exclusions to that where you have to underline certain things in contracts. And then I think it says that, it has to be distinguishable from the body text. And what that means is that it has to be at least the same size, if not larger than the body text or anything on the paper. So that's a real key. It's a real key when people start messing with the size of the text, because the notice or the header always has to be equal or larger to make it have force and effect. I yield.
Now, let me ask you this, ma'am, just because I want to see what you're trying to apply this to. What type of case is this?
So it is a custody case that resulted from a frivolous CPS case that was dismissed. Within that CPS case, temporary custody was given to my son's dad. And the judge said that once the CPS case is dismissed, that all of her orders would go away. So orders of protection went away. And the temporary custody order should have gone away, but it didn't. She somehow attached the custody order, which is full temporary custody to the dad, into the custody petition, and we have not had our first hearing. The first hearing is March 22nd. And so it's the same judge, and she said to me that she wants me to remember that she is the same judge from the CPS case, and she knows the history, which the history is that I refuse to comply with the CPS workers. And that basically I need to follow her orders. So,
well, the only reason I asked is, okay, you laid out a lot of information. Didn't really need to know all that information.
Okay.
Is most people in these communities think that I can do these challenges or whatever in every single type of case, and that is false. Okay. One, you said it's a custody dispute. The only way you can use your territorial jurisdiction argument is you need to go back and challenge the original case. If you're trying to do it in this case with your ex, it don't work. Why? Your ex gave them jurisdiction already. There's a dispute between you and him. That has nothing to do with territorial jurisdiction. The only way you can challenge is maybe subject matter, because maybe it's the wrong court, because maybe it should be in civil, not family, or in persona, maybe there was a not proper service. But this
right, I was
jurisdictional,
never served.
Yeah. Okay, then that's improper service. Then yes, you can make that argument. But a lot of people think if I make these arguments in every single case, it should work, and that's not the case, because you don't know. People don't realize the courts wear many hats. Okay, if you have a dispute with me and I go into court, territorial jurisdiction ain't going to freaking matter, because why? We have to be adults and settle our own affairs. But typically, when it comes to exes and relationships, that's not how it happens. The two people are at odds, and the court's been asked to help settle this matter. So if it was an agency case, oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay, but the fact is that I never gave consent to be sued. I never agreed for this court.
You don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
He gave consent because he is the petitioning party.
So it doesn't
Don't
require
forget your
the
minor
consent of
disability. Don't forget you're disabled.
Yeah.
You're literally disabled.
Consent is irrelevant, because why? Another man or another woman is the complaining party. And there is a dispute between the two parties. Mm-hmm.
So what's the best way to go through this when everything in the petition is not even a claim upon which relief can be granted? Like, he said things like, I don't give my son milk, and that I said milk is toxic. Like, these are ridiculous claims for a petition for custody.
Well, guess what? He don't like the way you're raising his son. He can make those claims. Now he has to prove it in court, and you have the option to rebut those claims.
Lady.
Right. Well, he'll never be able to prove the claims. I just don't want to spend the years in court.
Now, the other thing is, yes, if you were not properly served under the rules of civil procedure, yes, in personam jurisdiction can be challenged.
Right, because they would have to produce the document that I was served, correct?
He has to. The court is a non-biased, neutral party.
Well, him and the judge are like best friends. Every time he says
Their
something,
personal life doesn't
she's
matter.
like, no, it's not personal, but she'll say, oh yes, I believe everything you say. And then if I say something, she's like, well, I don't think you're credible. So she's just biased.
Then it's up to you to prove the biasness of the judge and file a complaint against her to get her recused.
I want to talk about this.
Go ahead.
Every violation of the canon that you're talking about, you need to state it in a way that it appears. It appears. It appears. And as soon as you start using the proper language, you're going to be heard. So, a person didn't do something. No. The judge didn't do something to you. It appears the judge did. Because all the canons are based on appearance. I yield.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. And no offense, I'm not picking on you, but go look at the statistics. 80% of divorces are started by women. And most of those women call their husbands some evil term like narcissist and everything else. And I personally, I will tell a woman, I don't believe you. I think the real problem is this. You two don't know how to communicate. And I use an example, the phrase, I need new clothes. That's a simple phrase. Everybody thinks they understand that phrase. But when I tell my wife I need new clothes, it's because I just ripped my pants right down the seam. My wife, on the other hand, might use it to mean this makes me look fat and I don't like it. The understanding between the two parties is different than the terms used. Okay? And that's what a lot of what's being missed. And now there's a dispute between y'all, and you're not liking it, instead of you learning to be an adult and him learning to be an adult and settling the matter between yourselves so the state don't have to be involved.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The minute he put the state into it, you're going to have to ride this out.
Okay,
I hate to say it.
So.
I really do.
Now,
if you want to know how to beat up on him, if he's actually a bad guy, and this is between you, him, and your God, if he's actually a bad guy, then bring the Bible into it. Show his dishonor because he didn't honor his first contract. I know Trey Ben, I know her personally. She helped a guy in Nevada in a divorce case. The woman was trying to take everything he had. She didn't do statutes, codes, rules, regulations, none of that. What'd she do? She brought the scriptures into it and showed how the wife was the dishonorable person because she did not keep her first contract. And he won his case. She didn't get nothing.
I want to add something to that. It's how I've gotten people to be exempt from COVID-19 shot or testing, is because if you're married, then you're already engaged in a contract, and you can't have intercourse with another because you're already engaged in intercourse with your husband or wife. That's simple.
Technically, and technically under the Bible, was y'all actually married or was he a boyfriend?
No, We weren't actually married, but we were together for
Okay.
10 years. And the only
Okay.
issue is that he wants my son to be vaccinated.
Now.
And I don't agree.
Okay. Okay. Now, you were not married under the state's eyes.
No.
Go look at Isaac and Rebekah in the Bible.
Okay.
At what point did Isaac become married to Rebekah?
I'm not sure. I can't say off the top of my head.
Isaac saw Rebekah from afar and chose to love her. And the moment he took her in the tent, and the moment he took you into his bedroom and knew you, in the eyes of God, you were his wife. See, this is why the people have forgotten what it means to be married. You're going to lay down with somebody, you're his wife. You had the intent. A woman does not just give her body willy-nilly.
Right.
So like I said, bring the Bible into it. Start studying. You don't need a contract with the state to prove marriage. The contract of matrimony is a private matter. The marriage license is a public matter.
Okay, thank you.
But hey, I'm going to get off here because I'm finally going to eat something today. I am hungry.
Enjoy. Thank you.
You are welcome. And I may be back later on tonight because I don't know what time I'll go to bed. I've been struggling to sleep at night some nights because I'm getting up too late in the day. I didn't get up till like 10:30 today, so I might be up late tonight. Talk to y'all later.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Cite your authority. I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How important is a trust, and do you have multiple trusts?
There is use for a trust if you can defend it, and if you have the writing skills and the intellectual and intestinal fortitude for it. It's a useful tool, absolutely. The other reality is that there's a public trust also that you have interest in. So I have interest in both. I agree with the use of both. Is that good enough?
I want to create my own trust. I'm at that point, but as far as filing and sending documents here, send documents there, can you be a little more specific of what's involved in that process, since you know a lot of authority and references and stuff?
Yeah, one of the best things to comprehend is how are you going to fund the trust? And the reality is it shouldn't cost you, but maybe, around $1,000 a year, to have the most basic things, done by an attorney. Because one of the most things that are missing is everybody wants to run and say attorneys are bad. And that's just simply not true. Again, an attorney is like a trust. It's a useful tool. But the reality of a trust does not exist until the first disbursement. So you've got to realize you have to fund this trust and you've got to disperse something from the trust for it to be true. So you have to fund it as if it's a corporation and it needs to run. And, if you don't practice law, or if you don't practice accounting, or if you don't practice both, then it'd be wise for you to have someone else manage it for you. Is that enough to get you started?
I'm going through the books that Pastor mentioned, the first one, and I'm going through the second one right now.
Yeah. So what I just told you is do you have enough assets to put in the trust? How many? What's your gross asset figure value?
Yeah, basically home and 3 cars.
Yeah. How much equity do you have in all of them? Because what you just told me is a bunch of liabilities. How much equity do you have?
Equity and everything except for 1 car.
Okay. How much do you owe on your house?
I owe nothing on the house, my friend. I just have equity in the brand new vehicle I just bought. That's the only thing that I owe money on.
Okay. So that's okay. So what's the value of the house?
$400,000.
Okay. Yeah. So a good square number is between $4,000 and $10,000 for the management of the trust. So do you have that liquid?
I have money. It's just I wanted to. I'm reading up on it. That way I could do it myself possibly, and then something that I don't comprehend how to do myself, maybe then pay someone to do for me, or for a few hours sit down with someone for them to explain it and pay them for their time. I'm one. I like to do my stuff the stuff on my own, because for some reason not everyone has your best interest at heart.
Yeah, I agree. But, the reality is have you ever done a trust before?
I've listened to a few
you're
books.
Fired. And you're fired. Do you hear me? You're fired. So what I'm trying to teach you is that there are men out there that do this every single day. You think they have some knowledge?
Why I'm asking the questions, my friend.
So I would say they've got some knowledge way past you. I like to do everything myself. I like to, fly helicopters and, ride in space vehicles. But guess what? I don't have all the tools to create my space vehicles and my helicopters. So I have to go to somebody. So the reality in this, and, this is what really gets me with a lot of these gurus. They want to tell you, oh, you could do it all yourself. You sure can. Yep. And you get shit soup. Yep. You only get what you bring. And when you bring inadequacy, when you bring inequity, that's what you get back. So the best thing to do is to learn enough and find a good man who is an attorney. Okay? So that you can develop a relationship with him, so that you can hire him for explicit things, such as filing. I love to hire my attorney to file stuff for me. Absolutely. He's the one that gets called if the trust or the trust interests are sued. He's the one that gets the call, and then he calls me if he has a question, if there's any questions. And so another thing about the trust is, how is the trust earning money? Is there a method of earning money for this trust?
This is just something to pass on to the heirs.
Yeah. So, that's one of the problems. Again, the trust is not a trust until a disbursement. So when do you think the first disbursement would be, and what would it be from what? So these are the questions that you... Go ahead.
Passing, or my wife's passing?
Okay, I don't understand that.
Basically, when one of us dies.
Yeah, so the trust is going to be officiated then. Do you see the big hole in this problem?
I mean, that's when the disbursement's going to take place, like you mentioned, you know?
Yeah, so a trust does not exist until the first disbursement. Would you like the trust to exist before then?
We're talking multiple trusts, and I guess I'm not thinking of the correct one, you know?
Yeah, so I'm saying that a trust doesn't exist until its first disbursement. So that means exactly what it means. There has to be a disbursement. A trust is not unlike a corporation. You know, the corporation is fictitious in sense that it's not a corporation. It's the IRS calls it a hobby. If you don't make money, right? It's a hobby.
Sense?
So what I'm saying, there has to be some mechanism in this trust that's in holding that makes money. Okay? So at the year end, the money that it makes, depending on how you set up your trust, is whatever disbursement's going to happen. So if there's, 3 beneficiaries or whatever, the $53.64 that the trust made, through the investments will be divided by 3 and dispersed in whole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you want to set up your trust as a income earning, and I shouldn't use the word income because that gets you really into money earning positions, so that there are actual things to be dispersed. You want to show a running, functioning business. I hope you comprehend what I just said, because it's a very big deal. Because all these people that I hear, listening to these gurus have all these trusts set up, and there's no money. There's no monies. There's no nothing. It doesn't have any value. There's no disbursements. It's, to me, it's just crazy. Does that help you out a little?
Yeah, it does. Can you talk about your basic trust, like the elements of yours, to give an example?
No, I don't talk about my private business. Any other questions?
I have no more questions. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet. I mean, I talked to you in general about, what I do, like my attorney, right? I just told you that, I have an attorney, and it's not me that has an attorney. My interests have an attorney, right? So, and that's how you keep yourself private. That's what private's all about, is insulating yourself from the public. So I have a representative for my interests. How are you?
Eric, I have a question. I mean, this is, my friend is not in here, but I do want, since you're talking about trusts, she does have a trust set up. And the question basically is, can she use that trust to get her children out of CPS custody?
Well, first of all, I don't care if you have a trust or not. What I care about is, do you have a minor disability? That's the reality.
Sense?
Huh?
In what sense? Like, how do you remove the minor disability? Like, some people
You act like a big girl. You evidence big girl things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't speak to that. I'm not 100% sure. Sometimes people say that one of the elements of not being considered a minor in the eyes of the law is not having an attorney, which she does not have one.
Yeah, so if
But
you heard what I just said, my interests have an attorney.
right, I did hear that. I did hear that.
Yeah, so the LLC has an attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, one holds and the other one manages, right? So that you could get all liabilities over to the non-holding entity, right?
Would that have to be written out in a security agreement? How do you evidence that?
Evidence what?
The relationship between the
Through your
entity.
assignments. Through your assignments. You assign these positions, you know, and you could be on the board or whatever. You know, you can be a participant in it, but you have to be very clear about it. And so, you know, it's called the Articles of Incorporation. So here's a good one, guys. It's a great question because it leads us to another thing. So go and pull up. Let's go to Twitter's, Google's, and Mr. Musk's Tesla, and pull up the Articles of Incorporation to all three of those, and pull up the PDFs and post them in the chat. And when you get them posted in the chat, I'll drop back in and we'll talk about it. How's that?
Okay.
So go into your Google search bar. Do you use Google?
I do usually use Google.
What's that?
I usually use Google.
Yeah, so why would you use something else? For what purpose?
No, I don't know why. Some people like to use other search engines, but I usually use Google.
Yeah, okay, so I always use Google. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, other ones seem to not give all the information. They seem
Yeah,
to
because they don't have
censor.
it. Because they're inferior. You know, if you ever look for like a fish, where do you think you're going to find a fish?
In the ocean?
In water. Yeah. Yeah. What
Right.
if you go to the desert? How many fish do you think you're going to find?
0.
I mean, you might find a fossil, right? It's going to be pretty bleak, though.
Perhaps.
So if you want to slay a dragon, go to the dragon's lair, right? It's that simple. And FYI, you know, Google owns DuckDuckGo. It was never a good site. Never. It all plays on people's emotions. So what you do in your Google search bar is you go Articles of Incorporation space for space Google space PDF. And you'll probably find out that these things are made in Delaware. And so if you're having a hard time, include the word Delaware in your search. Okay? Get those posted and I'll be back.
Okay,
Posted Google's
Form 10K. That's not it, right?
Say again.
I just found the Form 10K. That's not it, is it?
Did you read it?
No, I'm about
All
to,
right.
though.
Go do the homework and post it, guys. Work together as a team. Go on. I yield.
Did your sister adopt those children?
What'd you say?
Did your sister adopt those children?
No, it's not my sister. And I know they're not adopted. It's my friend. Um, she knows that the statutes or whatever are more so for adopted parents. But I'm not sure. I know they're misapplying the statutes and she knows that, but I'm not sure how to help her, express that.
And request the record, documented evidence from them to show that they granted her the rights in order to hold her liable. Otherwise, like you said, they misapplying the statutes, and that's what they do until you turn the tables over them.
Right. I'll mention that to her because she actually is sending records requests and she has gotten a lot, but I'm not sure if she's actually sent that specific request.
I texted you.
Okay, thank you. I'll respond.
I posted both Googles and Teslas. Is there another one that you wanted posted?
I believe he said Twitter.
He said Twitter. I was trying to look for it, but my computer's acting crazy. I need more memory. It won't even open up anything. I'm gonna try to go out and come back in.
Did we get anything posted, guys?
Twitter, Google, and Tesla, all three of them are posted.
Okay. Anybody there? What's up?
Yeah, they're all posted. They've been posted for a while, my friend.
Yeah, I didn't see Tesla up there. Did you get Tesla?
If you scroll up, I posted both Tesla and Google, and then at the bottom I posted with another lady, I believe. The
Did
other
you
one.
see what I posted? Did you see?
Some serious authorities.
Yeah. And so this is something that, you can really balance yourself with because, these are fairly legitimate corporations. So what do you think? You think these corporations used any of these authorities? Think they used any of these handbooks? Or do you think they just winged it? What's your favorite one? Anybody?
Eric, I haven't gotten to open them yet. By the titles, I'm going to say the plain English is what I'm going to like the most so far.
Yeah, now that's an interesting one. Absolutely. It's clear and decisive. Now, let's see. Plain how to create clear SEC disclosure documents. Because a lot of times you're going to have to disclose to the SEC, depending on what kind of business you're doing.
Right.
So this handbook reflects the work, ideas, and generosity of many individuals and organizations at the SEC and in private sector. Sounds like these guys, sounds like they're authors, right? Sounds like they've got some authority. Sounds like they, know what they're talking about. What is plain English document? Getting started, knowing your audience, knowing the information you need to disclose. Reorganization, the document. Writing in plain English, Chapter 6. I mean, we're talking about some very important information. And it's literally that quick. Like, I know it's awesome to come in and ask questions, but the reality is you should ask questions after you've really done your due diligence. And the reason why is because you show up, in particular settings like court, and they're just not going to be very nice if you haven't even put a good faith effort in. They're not going to be nice to you. And the reason why is because these, every minute that you're in court, it's about $40 or $50 a minute worth of time you're using up. So it's to me, it's valuable to show that you've done your best. And why I say it is because you are always going to fail. There's always going to be a problem. But that's okay if you put a good faith effort in. I yield. Any more questions, comments?
I'm not going to have any good questions concerning what we're talking about now because I haven't read the stuff yet.
More protected with a vehicle, let's say in trust? Does a cop ask for the regular documentation or just like the trust paperwork?
The regular documentation will have all the information he needs. Yep. And a lot of times it'll come up right in their computer that it's held in trust. So they know who they're talking to usually.
Yeah, so that's the level of competency is necessary, is to learn how to make their computer screen tell them things before they even get to you. Most people just think that they can give him documents at the window and it's going to override what his computer screen says, but that's not how he's trained, and it's probably not going to work out too well.
Drive around with a plate on your vehicle?
Me?
I was asking Matthew.
I don't think Matthew's in here anymore.
Guys, again, you need to change your language or you're not going to learn. You have to teach yourself. When held in trust, you drive around in a vehicle owned by a trust. It's not yours. It's registered to the trust.
And more than likely, you would specify my non-commercial motor vehicle, if that's how your affidavit is done, depending on your state.
Are there benefits to registering in Delaware, like these big boys registered in Delaware?
Yes, absolutely. Delaware has a running chancellery court. And guys, to let you know, what's fancy to me is simplicity. Simplicity, that's what's fancy to me.
Would you be willing to share how to find cases when you want to back up a position for free? Like you had mentioned that pastor can find cases his way if you can't find something. Would you be willing to share something like that?
What exactly is your request?
like case research. Like, for example, I know Case Text has a research tool, but on my computer that no longer lets me open up the cases. It just gives me a ton of cases because I guess they want me to buy the subscription now. How do you find, let's say, driving rights or other kinds of things, you know?
Yeah, so I use keyword searches in Google. And so I use explicit words. So what I'll do is I'll type in Google search bar American jurisprudence or case law regarding, such and such, and space PDF. No matter what you search, you always need to put space PDF after it. And then once you do that, you go into a good resource and capture the words that they use, and then take that to your next Google search and use those words that are really explicit in law that you think have force and effect. And you can always add the state name space PDF. Comprehend?
Yeah, next time we'll try that. Do you search via Google Scholar or just Google?
Yeah, so I search in Google, not in the upper bar, but in the middle screen, always.
Does it help when you're talking about specific phrases to put it in quotation marks, or is that necessary on Google?
Listen, you can make it all fancy, but I use quotation marks about every 10,000 searches.
Gotcha. Thank you.
10,000. I don't use all the fancy stuff that the books tell you that you need. Quotes and plus signs. No. And the reason why is, do you think all these people are entering plus signs and quotes in their Google searches? Or do you think they're just typing out the quick words?
The quick words.
Yeah, so what do you think you should mimic? Think you should be the fancy guy? Or you think you should just...
I want to do it as simply as possible. I just didn't know how they...
Yeah.
I just started... You just taught me that here recently with the Google, because I don't use Google very much.
Quit trying so hard. Yep. Well, because, when you're trying that hard, you're just treating yourself poorly.
Right. And it's time consuming.
Yeah, when you treat yourself poorly, people around you that see that will start treating you the same poorly.
Right.
Is there a reason to go to a law library, or basically you could find the same stuff sitting at home from Google?
Oh, no, a law library is good, but, again, until you have pulled from all your resources at hand, why are you complicating things? So when you show up at a law library or you email the librarian, you're going to have to act smart. You're going to have to be kind. You're going to have to do all these things when you could have just sat at home and type. I mean, go look at my research. Go look at the stuff. That's all free. All of it. It's amazing.
Prefer like books and stuff like that instead of video, listening to people talk about subjects via video?
Video is clunky. when there's a PDF, you can search for keywords. You can't search for keywords in a video. I don't want to say it's useless, but it's very time consuming.
Can you remind me how to look for keywords in a PDF document? I remember they taught us that feature in school, but I forget.
Yeah, under the Edit tab in Adobe is a box called Advanced Search. That is the one that I like the most. The Control F for a find function is not, hear me out, it's not an advanced search. I yield.
Concerning the difference between video and hearing other people say it as opposed to reading it, I don't even think you could technically claim firsthand knowledge or competency if you haven't gotten it out of a book or some kind of a reference.
Yeah, very true.
Earlier, they were talking about authenticating documents. You have a document and you send it to the Secretary of State so that, like, it's official, and then you put it into your court case. I kind of don't understand how you authenticate. Like, I understand, like, you want the original blue ink signature of, like, your loan document, right? That's the real deal, like, certified copy. But what's authentication of documents? Can you explain that?
Authentication is, a process to show where they were generated and that it was generated as per law. So it's a real loose term, but most of the stuff I do, it's done using the style that you can find in 28 United States Code 1746. Where, or you can look, what state do you have interest in?
South Carolina.
Okay, so you could type this in your Google search bar. Unsworn space declarations space North Carolina, South Carolina, I forgot what you said, space PDF.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You bet. Any other questions, comments?
Attempt to talk to an officer when he pulls you over by kind of hinting that you know the law and it's not worth their time to mess with you and take you to court? Or do you don't waste your time with them because they have a gun and you just deal with the courts once they choose to give you a presentment?
That's a good question. It depends how savvy you are, and it depends on what you think the infraction is that he pulled you over for. But normally, it's best to just be most polite, give the officer everything he needs, and then deal with the obligation of the United States, in the next 72 hours.
By not contracting within that time frame?
Well, yeah, you want a contract. Absolutely. See, I'm saying all the opposite stuff that most gurus say. Yeah, you want a contract with them. It's just how. How do you contract with them?
Do you, like Pastor, take the approach that it's the obligation of the United States and you send them a document basically stating that?
That's a good question. So the reality is everything is an obligation of the United States if you do it right. And second of all, you're going to send them back the instrument they presented with an endorsement that endorses it to the United States as an obligation, and of course to the party at hand, local party, the court. I yield.
Basically signing it similar to like buy agent for United States or something similar to that, where you're like the agent, or you write in who you are and then you put your signature, and then that's how they know basically who you represent, right?
Well, I mean, you have to use the law so that you can quote the law on how to endorse it to the United States. And in that, you're going to express your position, authorize representative, of such and such interests. I yield.
Would you happen to have any documentation for us to look into this documentation?
Yeah, I mean, I've got it, but I don't give it to people who don't comprehend, because it's just going to get you into trouble. You need to figure out where it is in the code. You need to learn what you're looking for. You need to learn how to find. And the reason why is because you need to defend it. If I give you all the cheap things, you're going to just get in trouble. Because as soon as you're being tested, by that court, you're going to fail immediately if you didn't do it yourself.
I remember Pastor gave a few statutes. That's what I've been doing recently, going into the Black's Law and then looking everything up online. Something that I don't understand also, and that's where you get most of your clarity from.
And believe it or not, definition sections inside the actual state code sightings are pretty revealing.
Yeah, it'll be under general purposes, and then under general purposes, there'll be a header called definitions. And that's very much the same in all code, all titles, all law. Any other questions, comments? I'm going to take a break, guys. Going once, going twice. All right, you guys, you take care. Good discussion today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any success stories from court?
I do.
Here.
But I never pay traffic tickets. I basically give them notices, deliver privately to the district attorneys. And then I also cite some laws and stuff. but I treat them as my brothers and sisters, and I give them notice that way. It's all about asserting your rights, and then they end up dismissing the case. One time I went to the court, I gave them my notice, they still want me to come to court. So I said there was nobody showed up, just the judge doing her own thing. And I basically said, hey, you're in a maritime court. And I'm not going to enter this ship. And she was like, oh, what about where you are? That was kind of interesting why she's asking me where I am. But I was keep saying, hey, you're in a maritime court. And she decided to walk out of her ship and landed next to me. Then she was doing the arraignment. And I said, are you doing the arraignment? And she said, yeah. So she was finished the arraignment, and then she gave me a copy. And she went into her ship. And then I was, yelling at her and said, oh, you created a treason against the Constitution. You are the trustee. And then she basically kicked me out. And I never went back to court, never got any notice. That was it. So I always win all the court cases.
He basically knew that you understood a little bit, eh?
What do you mean understood?
Understood not to go beyond that thing, and then when she came to you, you told her, you're the trustee, you take care of this, right?
Yeah, basically I said, I do not consent, when I asked her, are you doing the arraignment? She said, yes. I said, I do not consent. And then she finished it quickly, and then she handed to me the complaint. But, she's acting as a prosecutor. She's acting as a complainer. She's like one-man show, And I said, I do not consent. So you have to understand these courts are all about consent, voluntary consent. So the whole thing is created without your knowing your consent. And in equity, they did create a trust. So either you honor the trust, and then you have to collapse the trust. At law, you could always claim your rights. It's all about your rights given by law or equity. Whichever you want to go is your thing. So every court is court of record. Every court is court of record. So you gotta research what is a court of record. There could be statutory court. There can be true common law court. It can be true equity court, a statutory equity court. It could be many things. The court has many different faces. Depends on what you want to invoke. It's all up to you. You have to come in as however you want to conduct yourself. So when you talk about statute, they will open up a statutory court. Then you have to assert your statutory right. And then if you want to go to constitutional court, that you are asserting your constitutional right. And you gotta persist your rights. Eventually they will close it. But you have to know how you want to get into the court and what jurisdiction. It's all about you are going to have to create that. So, these courts are multidimensional courts, and they have a public side, they have a private side. So it all depends on what you know. They will invoke that court for you. But when you have lack of knowledge, you don't know what you're doing, then presume that you're dead. Presume that you're a trustee of the capital letter trust that they created. That capital letter could be a corporation, and you are the surety or you are the representative in taking the office. So if you don't say what their name is and create a relationship with the name that you're operating in your birth certificate, the capital letters, your driver license, capital letters, all these capital letters. What is a capital letter? You have to know what is the relationship that you have. Are you taking the office of that capital letter? Then if the capital letter is a trust, or is it a corporation, or what is it? You have to express it. If you don't express it, and presume you are dead, you are infant, you're incompetent to conduct your own affairs. So it's all voluntary act.